Enlightenment is dangerous. It's just endgame for the sense of self. You know, it all started with the thought, I exist. I'm a separate person, I'm a separate self. It's a mask. And over the years, this mask became ugly. It is so ashamed about its own past deeds. It is full of scars and mud and dirt. It's an ugly mask. Everyone has an ugly mask. Everyone thinks that they are this mask. And everyone is aware that they could be judged based on this mask because it's an ugly mask. So it has this natural tendency to avoid pain and seek for pleasure. So what it does is it is looking for shiny things, you know, characteristics that the mask can take on, so that it is not always shame, but it can be prideful because it's more shiny. So it's a bizarre thing. It's full of ugly scars and wounds, but it's full of shiny objects, and it's never satisfied. It's in a constant battle, and it does not want to be naked. It's constantly covering itself up, and it's trying to it's never really authentic. But it craves authenticity, actually, because that's love. And it tries to be good in the eyes of other people in order to receive acceptance. Because it needs that acceptance to have little glimpses of that love. And then it's looking for something called enlightenment. Because it thinks it's another shiny object, and it's like it feels that this object called enlightenment will finally make this mask perfect. But when non-dual teachers or just people who are talking about this stuff, you know, are teaching about this stuff, and the mask is listening, feels like, I don't get this. It's just, I'm completely missing what it's about. I'm listening to this non-dual stuff, enlightenment stuff, but I don't get it. Which is why the mask is constantly reading more, watching more videos about this. But those words are not directed to the mask. They are directed towards something that is not really a thing. It's directed to that which is already enlightened, the thing that is behind the mask, which is not a face. It's nothing. And the mask has to be ready to, give up. Then this light will just shine through the mask, and it's an absolute annihilation of the mask. It's not another shiny object for the mask, because it is looking for something. It wants to be the best ego, wants to be better than everyone else. It wants to have the ultimate self-image, so that it doesn't have to be ashamed anymore. But actually it's all about not trying anymore to have this perfect or project this perfect self-image outwards. You're giving up. It's just you're not trying anymore to be perfect or to be good. You're just giving up. This mask is constantly trying to fix itself, repair itself, in the hopes that it will be accepted. But it will never be really accepted, and even if it is accepted, it won't feel like it. For example, when you're doing something, you feel nervous or ashamed about it, but you have to do it for some reason. The mask will try to come up with solutions on how to, do it better. It tries to look for knowledge, for philosophical knowledge on how to go through such situations without shame, without fear. But it stops at some point. Like, there's just this acceptance, like, yes, it's fear, it's shame, it's the ugly side of the mask. Is you cannot hide it anymore until it breaks. Then you don't look for pleasure anymore, because it takes too much effort to seek for pleasure. And then you give up, and then the mask breaks and the light shines through, and then you don't have a self-image anymore, or at least it's not so strong anymore. There's still like a ghost-like self-image. Well, not all the time. Sometimes there is a ghost-like self-image still, but it's not you anymore. You don't care about your self-image anymore. There's just no one there. There's just the situation. That's just right now. It's just that moment, and whatever feeling arises, there's no one that is interested in fixing that feeling. So that's the great surprise for you. Because if you would know what it will feel like to not have an ego, then you wouldn't look for enlightenment, because you think enlightenment will give you something. But it will take everything. has nothing to do with pleasure. When there's pleasure, there's not so much personal enjoyment anymore. Maybe a little bit because there's a ghost-like mask left, but at the same time there's also not so much suffering. I mean, the feeling of suffering can arise still, but no one's trying to fix it. Because no one's taking it personal. For example, when someone is telling you that you're an asshole, then something feels something about it. But at the same time, you're not even wasting a single thought on it. It's just... And you don't decide to not waste a thought on it. It just doesn't happen. You're not trying to protect. And if protection is needed, it will happen naturally. And you're not projecting a good self-image towards other people, because when you're projecting a positive self-image or funny or whatever self-image on other people, then you're secretly hoping for validation. But that stops to a certain degree, or maybe even completely, because you recognize that you will never have enough. You will never have enough light from other people. So you're finally accepting the fact that you don't need the light of the world. You know, the sun is not self-aware that it's shining, but it is the light, so it doesn't need the light of other stars. The sun doesn't care how it shines. It simply is. So it's all about being vulnerable and naked and authentic, not self-defensive. Like a child. Almost. That's a way to compare it or explain it. Like you're presenting your naked self to the world, like wherever this body is. It's completely naked and vulnerable. And people could, attack you. But you're not ready. You're just not ready. But the funny thing is, when something happens and it's needed, like when you need to attack or defend, it just happens. It's like a natural intelligence. No need for a separate self to have that in you. Some people were asking how to make decisions when there's no separate self. Your body-mind mechanism was always deciding what to do without you. It was always like that. So decision making will not stop as soon as the separate self is not there anymore. It was never there. It's just the decision happened. The thinking happened. But the process of deciding wasn't your process. It was just a process that happened in the brain. And then the body was acting on it. And then the thought said it was my decision, but it wasn't. So everything will remain the same, but with less suffering. It's a very effortless state of being, but everything will remain the same. You'll even be more efficient, probably. Not always. Maybe your whole life is gonna change. Maybe not at all. So, and you can have a little glimpse of what it feels like actually if you would just ask yourself right now if there's a sensation or a part in your life right now that you want to avoid. Like there must be a reason why you are trying to get enlightened or trying to be free or liberated. There's something painful in your life that you want to avoid. And when you're just aware of that part right now, that dark abyss, and you would just accept for a moment that nothing will help, and you let this abyss consume you. That's that's helplessness, you know? But that's where all the wisdom is, and where all the happiness is. Not pleasure, but bliss. Because you're not hiding anymore, because that abyss represents, or the scars on the mask, they represent that abyss that you're feeling inside. Nothing will save you. But when you let yourself being consumed by it, you let it happen, and then you will realize that you're still alive, or the body mind mechanism is still alive, the consciousness is free, the ego cannot hide anymore. And that's happened. What is left for you to be scared of? Like that's the whole problem. When you're not hiding from that abyss anymore, then where's the problem? There are a lot of self-help videos talking about changing your identity. Simply change your identity. What about having no identity? Alright, that's it.